Hey everyone, it's Suey here. So I'm feeling a little bit burned out with doing tags lately, and so I'm trying to figure out what other things I can do on this channel. And I remember making a list of all these ideas I had, but I'm looking at the list just not feeling it right now. And I also don't know why I've changed up my filming spot. I just feel so much more chill sitting here on the floor in the living room than I do in the other room with my, little bit of my book backdrop and whatever. And it just feels like I'm just sitting here chit-chatting with you instead of doing an actual, like formal video. So maybe there'll be two different styles from now on going forward. I don't know. I'm just playing around. Today, instead of doing a tag, I just thought I would do a little writing update and tell you about the conference that I just went to this past weekend. For those few handfuls of you that might be interested in the writing journey, I know most of you don't really care, I think. At least that's the vibe I'm getting. I did not take any pictures or do any filming at all, like not even one little picture. I just sat back and relaxed and absorbed the atmosphere and the panels, lots of panels. This next weekend I'm going to another one, and I'm thinking maybe I will try to vlog that one. That one might be more interesting to you all. This past one is kind of a more local centered writing conference that is very heavy on the science fiction fantasy. The name of it is Life, the Universe, and Everything, or LTUE for short. The local university started doing it almost 50 years ago. Just kind of free for students, bringing in some authors, helping people at the university kind of learn how to start becoming a writer. And I only discovered it in 2008, which was quite a while ago, but a long time after it actually started. And I went there because I found out that Orson Scott Card was there, and I just wanted to go get my Ender's Game signed. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, this thing is happening with all these other authors, and there's classes, and it's free, and why am I not doing this? And at the time I was just getting into blogging, and so I totally ate that all up. Even though I did not think I was a writer at that time, I felt like all of the bookishness of it was something that I absolutely loved. Meeting the authors, hearing them talk about their books, and I blogged about it every single year in like great detail. And I was looking back on those blogs, and they're really pretty funny. And there was a year where I even titled my blog, "I am a reader, not a writer." So I felt kind of funny going to this conference, not having any intention to write at all. In the back of my mind, I wanted to be a writer at that point, and I'd started a book, but I hadn't touched it for years. I started going to this conference and just loved hearing about the process of writing. And I fast forwarded a few years, and I started doing NaNoWriMo. And that's when I decided, you know what? I think this writing thing might be for me after all. So then I kept going to this LTUE conference and started adding some other conferences in my life, and kind of dropped LTUE for a while. Past weekend was the first time I've gone in probably like 6 or 7 years. I've skipped out on it. I don't know why, because even though it's not free anymore, it is still really, really cheap for what it is. 3 days long, a keynote speech every single day by some more well-known local authors, plus some bit more bigger name authors that they'll bring in, that they bring in from out of state. All day long are panels and presentations starting at 9, going through until like 7 or 8. Every hour there's different tracks, so you can go to writing classes, or you can go to professional development classes, or you can go to art classes, or you can go to gaming classes, or I can't remember what else now. There's like a couple others too. So editing classes. So most of the things they're talking about are very much the same of what I've been learning all this time, although different twists on things, different technology, different day and age. You can tell things have changed a little bit. This time I went with my friend, and so I did something completely new and out of my comfort zone, which was go to a coffee clutch, it's called. Some of you may know what that is. If you don't, it's just when you go in a smaller group, get a drink of your choice and hang out and chit chat with the author. So we did that with Jennifer Nilsson, who was one of the guest of honors and one of our more popular local authors, and Paul Graham, who they flew in from New Hampshire, who is pretty well known for this middle grade book called The Luck Uglies. I need to get my hands on that one. So we just chit chatted with both of them, picked their brains, just sat there and asked questions. It's like did I say this, kind of in a little boardroom? I think Jennifer Nielsen had maybe 20, 25 people in there. Paul Graham had 10. So it was really awesome. And that's something I would never do by myself. This is one thing I've learned about writing conferences. It is really, really annoying to be an introvert. Most people are introverts that write. Often people that write are introverts, but there is a lot of people who aren't, and my friend is one of them, and she can talk to anybody, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, how can she do this? I get very annoyed with myself for not being a little more talkative and being brave, I guess. Some of the classes I went to, let's see if there's anything that you might find interesting. We talked about editors and how they help you with your work, and they work with you. They don't just rip it to pieces and tell you how crappy you are. We went to a class about redemption arcs, and they highlighted Zuko from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is a series I have not ever watched, but it was very interesting anyway to see what a character like Zuko, his arc that he goes through. And now I kind of really want to watch that. Jennifer Nielsen did a fabulous presentation on what makes a book break out and become like the buzzed about book. And all the things that we need to do if we want to write a book like that. Some of those you might be interested in, what she listed. You have to take the familiar and do a twist on it. You have to have a fresh, new, compelling idea. Make people go, wait, what? What are you talking about? There needs to be a large-scale conflict, like a life versus death sort of situation. There needs to be strong emotional connections to characters. Like that is a huge one. Strong emotional connections to the villains also. There needs to be some element of surprise in the story. And she feels like one of the big key things about books that become buzzed about and talked about, and books that we all go, hey everyone, you really need to read this, is that they can be easily talked about, and they can be easily explained like in one sentence to people. Like, for instance, here's a book you might like. It's about kids killing kids. Another class I went to was Writing for the Human Brain, which is sort of the psychology of story and how our brains, when reading a story, it doesn't know the difference between just reading it and experiencing it for ourselves. Like our brains will light up because it's acting as if the story is happening to it. Does that make sense? And I find this to be a fascinating concept. The part of our brain that reacts to sight, sound, taste, smell, touch and balance are completely different. So we got to think about that. The part of our brain that reacts to objects and goals and times and places and stuff like that. The part of our brain that reacts to abstraction and moral judgments, theories. The part of our brain that needs to know when, why, where, what. The part of our brain that likes surprises, talking about the surprise element from the other class. Anyway, it just went on. And it's like, so to write a good story, you're wanting to make the brain light up in all the ways. So you got to be able to touch on all these different things. So fascinating. We went to a class on how to find readers, which was sort of more like a marketing class, which is real frustrating because marketing is hard. Getting people to pay attention to what you're trying to do is hard. Writing with heart, and how do you do that? How do you capture somebody's heart in your writing? We talked about a book called The War of Art, where they talked about how a lot of writers feel like they are always having to fight a resistance. Does that make sense? Like fight your brain to not wanting to do it. So you have to name what is causing you to resist, and you have to fight against it. So that's the war you're fighting for art. Does that make sense? And you have to fight the different parts of your brain, the creative part and the logical part. And you have to let the creative part take over, and then the logical part can do its thing later on. But if you let that part be in your brain when you're trying to create, it's not going to work. They're going to have a fight. They're going to have a war. They compared it to the same as going to the gym and how you have to have resistance in order to build muscle. That's the same for creating art, whether it's writing or something else. Then we learned about pre-writing, which I find really fun. That's when you think about who all the characters are going to be and where you're going to set it, and you research the setting, and you kind of figure out the plot a little bit. You don't necessarily have to outline, but you can lay out your different key moments, your action beats, that kind of stuff. And then we went to a class called Kill Your Darlings, which often means editing and taking out a character that you liked but isn't really working in the story, or taking out a whole chunk of a story that you really liked when it came out, but then it's not really working. Well, this class was actually funny because it was actually about killing characters off. We talked about all the different ways you can do that and keep a promise to your readers, and make sure that it's correct for the genre and that kind of thing. We went to one about making a website, which I really, really need to do. Writing middle grade. Dealing with plot holes in your story, having twists and turns in your story, learning how to give feedback, writing characters that are endearing. That's about a good little overview of some of the classes I went to. I usually get real fired up after being to a conference, and I did with this one. I mean, I'm excited to keep doing it and accomplish all my goals, which are many this year, writing wise. But I also felt a little depressed when I realized how long I've been going to these writing conferences, how long I've been writing, how long I've been trying to do this, and nothing's really come of it yet. But they say you got to practice, and I've been practicing. I've been practicing for a lot of years. And I'm just kind of to the point where I'm thinking, if something doesn't happen, if I don't figure out something, whether I get traditionally published or just throw it up there somewhere so that people can read stuff and just do my own self-published thing, I just feel like something needs to happen, because I feel like I'm just kind of floundering here. So that made me a little sad and depressed when I thought about it that way, you know what I mean? So I'm hoping that I don't let that feeling overwhelm me and keep up with the other feeling, which is go forward and do all the things. Jennifer Nielsen is so powerfully inspiring when she talks and just tells you that your story is the one people need. And so don't give up and put your story out there, because somebody out there needs it. So hopefully I can keep that in my brain and just keep going. This week I am working on the first chapters of 2 stories that I want to send into a contest, starting to draft another book that I've got a little bit of a beginning for, but I want to actually finish that story up. So yeah, I got lots and lots and lots to do. This is a rambly, just chit-chatty video. I hope you find that fine and fun. Even if you're not totally interested in the whole writing process, maybe you find it a little bit interesting as a reader, like I did way back in the beginning, like I was talking about. There's my thoughts on the past few days. And like I said, there's another one coming up this weekend. I don't know why these 2 got scheduled right on top of each other, but they did. And so maybe I'll vlog this one, just because I think you might find it a little bit more interesting, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, until next time, happy reading and writing.